Chapter 16. Sir, the storm has passed. We can lift whenever you are ready. Spears nodded, pointed one finger at the trooper in a kind of salute. Load 'em up. The men hustled toward the hopper, eager to get out of the place. The air plant belonged to the aliens now, and his human troops were afraid to be here. They didn't have anything to worry about, as long as Spears had a use for them. Soon they would, but not right now. A good general didn't waste material until he could see a suitable replacement for it on the horizon. Spears climbed into the trooper carrier and moved to the control cabin. The pilot had all systems online, doubtless had them ready for some time. Spears grinned. Lift it, Spears commanded. The hopper rumbled with power and then surged up a hair, enough to clear the landing area floor. It began to move forward slowly. Once it was clear of the plant, the little ship would become like an arrow shot at a distant target, would hang a lazy parabola, decelerating against the faint gravity for the last portion of the flight. POC. Piece of cake. I don't hear the beacon, Spears said. Probably some residual crosspole flurry, sir. Flux whirlpools causing interference. It's not uncommon after a big storm. Is our comm working? All systems are green, yes, sir. Call third base. Coded squirt, advising them of our status. Sir. The pilot slid one finger across a motion-sensitive contact bar, then touched a keypad next to it. The general watched, waited. There's the response, sir, the pilot said. ACNO confirm. Green and green. Spears rubbed at his chin with his thumb. Missed a spot with the depil last time he'd wiped the whiskers off. Just a couple of hairs, but that was sloppy. Sloppy was bad. Sloppy could get you dead. Call him back. Punch in code 096-9011-D. That's Delta. Sir? I don't recognize the code. You aren't supposed to, son. Just do what you're told. Yes, sir. The pilot tapped in the numbers. The hopper had full holo projects. After a moment, the screen area over the console blossomed, swirled for a moment, then remained a pale and featureless blue. A clear signal. Well, well, Spears said. We've got trouble at home. Sir? There's nothing there. Exactly. The pilot looked puzzled. Spears said, You don't know the story of the barking dog, do you, son? The pilot shook his head. Back on Earth, long time ago, there was a famous investigator working on a crime. While listing the clues, he said, and of course, there's the matter of the dog barking in the night. His assistant, who had been compiling the evidence, said, But the dog did not bark. Precisely, the detective said. The pilot might as well have been in suspended animation, midpoint in a 50-year sleep. Spears shook his head. The signal is not supposed to be clear, the general said. That it is means there is a problem. Ah, I see. Whether he did or not didn't matter. Spears was not so inept that he would leave his base without stringing a few noisemakers. Time to try another one. There was always a chance that the magnetic storm had damaged some electronics. Put the ship back down where it was, Spears said. Sir? A little detour. Don't worry about it. Wilks pushed the helmet back on the E-suit. The heaters in the crawler had the somewhat stale air warm enough to breathe and keep his ears from freezing. Billie sat in the co-operator's chair, waiting for him to tell her what he wanted. Okay, we have to assume that this hopper has got firepower equal to ours, so we have to shoot first. The weaponry here is like that on the APC we flew on the alien's homeworld. Robot guns, computer-operated, 20mm expended uranium armor-piercing slugs. All we have to do is plug the target in, like so. He tapped the specs for a light military hopper. Light the system here? He lifted a protective cover, pressed a button. The fire control screen flicked on. Security code, courtesy of Major Powell, thus. The screen flashed. Armed, it said. System ready.
That's it. Everything is automatic from here on. The ship gets into range, our system hoses it.
He's got 25 troopers with him, Billie said. You ever hear the expression, burning down the barn to get rid of the rats?
Depends on how nasty the rats are, kid. The guys with him are on his side. You can't think about them or their families or anything like that.
That's cold, Wilks.
War is ugly, Billie. People die. Sometimes the choice comes down to you or them. If Spears gets back here and rallies the troops who might be loyal to him, the rest of us are going to wind up feeding Mama Bug and the little ones. In a perfect universe, there wouldn't be any need for soldiers or Marines. In this one, there is.
Billie nodded. Despite her feelings, he was right. She knew it. She had killed before, both APs and humans. She remembered the pirate who had attacked their ship, and how he would have blown them all out of existence. She didn't like it, but Wilks was right. But if the guns are automatic, why do we have to be here? He shrugged.
Like a pilot on a commercial ARC ship, in case something goes wrong. A circuit could overload, something could jam, maybe the guns work fine, but somebody gets clear of the hopper in an escape pod and keeps coming. We're backup.
Billie repressed a sigh. Humans, backing a death-dealing machine. She sometimes wondered if people were any better than the aliens. They were killers, but more like ants or bees, beasts of prey. They hunted to feed, not for sport. And she doubted if they ever planned an ambush of their own kind. Then again, Billie had no desire to become dinner for the monsters. She had come too close too many times already, and people like Spears, like those turncoats on Earth who caught and gave their fellow humans to the aliens, those kind of people were psychotic. Whatever it took to stop them had to be done. She just wished she wasn't the one who had to do it. General, the hopper is 10 clicks out. Spears, looking at the computer read, turned toward the pilot.
Keep it on standard approach.
Sir. The hopper in which they rode smelled musty, the air stale, and while everything worked as it was supposed to work, the little ship felt loggy. Spears could understand that. The backup vessel had been in storage at the air plant for more than a year, parked and sealed, awaiting just such a use as this. The hopper on which they had flown from the base was 5 kilometers ahead of them now, empty of personnel, being piloted on remote by the man who normally would be flying this vessel. The co-pilot seated next to him kept the chase hopper on an even path, same altitude, same speed. Not that it was really necessary. This ship had a major advantage over the drone ahead of them. This ship wore a full stealth suit, would be invisible to radar or Doppler, and with the flat black anodized hull damned near invisible to eyeballing against the dark of space. Still, if the hide-me suit somehow malfunctioned, a lazy radar operator would see a double blip and probably think it was a ghost. Since there weren't supposed to be any other hoppers the same size away from the base, this one didn't show on records anywhere. Spears had seen to that. Then the operator who might see it, if the stealth gear failed, would not be unduly worried. And if, in this very unlikely scenario, the tech didn't scramble a code, he would be fed to the aliens when Spears got back. The general had no use for such troops, even if he was the one trying to fool them. 5 clicks, sir.
Steady as she goes, son.
This could all be a waste of his trump, but Spears had learned it was better to be cautious than dead. Time was running down on this planetoid anyway. There were big things in the offing, worlds to conquer, glory to be reaped, wars to be won. Spears grinned, and victory begins at home, doesn't it?
Here they come, Wilks said. Right down the pipe.
The tiny green dot on the gunnery radar screen moved toward the center. After a moment, the dot began to pulse, alternating now between green and amber. Target initially acquired. flashed across the bottom of the screen.
"It's a match,"
Wilks said. The alternating dot continued to pulse, then went from green amber to red. Target confirmed. To abort firing, you must enter cancel code. Wilks glanced at Billie, shook his head.
"All yours,"
he said, knowing that the computer wouldn't understand the comment. The pulsing dot expanded, became the outline of the hopper. A blue grid appeared on the screen in one corner, then expanded to cover the hopper. A bullseye ring lit in bright green, centered on the hopper. 60 seconds to optimum firing distance. A timer began counting down from 60 toward 0. Wilks watched Billie. She stared at the screen, blinked rapidly. Her breathing speeded up. At fire minus 30 seconds, she said, "Jesus, it's like watching an execution."
"Yeah, it is."
15 seconds to optimum firing distance. Wilks tapped a control on the external monitor. The tracking can gave him a star-sprinkled black.
"There it is,"
he said, as much to himself as Billie. A tiny dot, the running lights barely visible. 5 seconds to optimum firing distance. The hydraulics of the guns whined slightly as they moved the weapons, tracking the incoming ship. Optimum firing distance. Commence firing. The machine guns were recoilless, so the vessel around them didn't shudder. But the weapons vibrated, shaking them as if they had developed a sudden palsy. And the vacuum outside didn't carry any sound, but some of the hull and air inside did. The reports were muted by the dampers, the noise almost like a thick sheet of canvas being ripped. Every 10th round was a tracer. The guns fired so rapidly that there seemed to be a continuous line of colorful fire splashing against the incoming hopper. The fire computer had it all figured out. The target's speed, the gravity, the velocity of the incredibly hard uranium slugs that hammered the hopper. It couldn't miss. It didn't miss. The hopper's armor wasn't enough. The machine gun fire punched through it. Wilks could see sparks as bullets hit the plating, sparks that blossomed as air from within spewed out and fed the tiny fires. The tracers raked the ship, found the engine, smashed through and destroyed it. The hopper lost power, tumbled, out of control. Fell in the low gravity, a ruined and discarded toy from the hand of a bored child. "God," Billie said. Wilks watched. No escape pods popped out. It was almost too easy. See you in hell, Spears. "Sir, the drone is drawing fire." Spears nodded, pleased.
"Set your fire control to backwalk the attacking battery."
"We'll have to drop the stealth suit to use our targeting systems."
"That doesn't matter. We've got the drop on them. Punch them out."
The pilot and co-pilot hurried to obey.
"Got to be Powell behind this," Spears thought. "I wouldn't have guessed that you had the guts, you little no-dick bastard. But if you want to play with the best, you have got to be a lot sharper than a chicken shit ambush, Major. I am going to hand-feed you to the Queen myself when I get down." The hopper went down, streaming oxy-fed flames that winked out quickly in the vac. The ship hit, bounced high, hit again, shattered, and sent pieces flying. The light gravity let most of the debris sail quite a distance. Those chunks that entered the station's faux gravity fell faster, bounced lower. The tracking cam stayed with the largest section. Wilks didn't see any bodies, but he supposed they were all cocooned into their seats. Just as well. The sight of a ruined human body tumbling across the landscape wasn't one he particularly wanted to see anyhow. Adios, General. Second target acquired, the computer flashed. Optimum distance minus 1,000 meters. Commencing fire. Wilks jumped, stared at the screen. It took a second to register. A second they didn't have to spare. "Fuck! Close your helmet! Move! We've got to get out of here! Now!"
He slapped his own faceplate shut, grabbed Billie's hand, and jerked her up. They scrambled for the exit. He hit the emergency hatch control. Both locks snapped up. They leapt for the opening as the first slugs began to punch holes in the crawler.